Well, let's start by telling the audience about advocating for yourself. What is the best advice to women for advocating for themselves as attorneys or economists? You can select whether it is for advancement in their careers, receiving better salaries or benefits, or maintaining work-life balance. We'll start with you.
You know, that's a hard question, because I was thinking back to the advice I've been given by various male and female mentors over the years. And I think the advice I would give to women is the same as I would give to men. Be yourself. Surround yourself with people who want you to succeed, who see your success as a benefit to them. It's a sponsorship issue. The practice of law, whether you're doing antitrust or anything else, is very much, most of the time, a team effort. And if you, feel that you're supported, then how you feel about work-life balance, or how you feel about your salary, or how you feel about any number of things. Are you getting interesting work? Are you happy at work? That's part of work-life balance. You can have plenty of time with your family, but if you hate what you're doing at work, you're not going to be happy.
Dr. Hayter, what advice do you have for economists out there, female economists out there?
So I think I'm very much in line with what Melissa said. I think what the advice I would give to, say, younger colleagues or just generally colleagues in the profession is essentially what I've followed myself. You work hard. You try to look towards others around you that are senior to you that you think would be good mentors, so people that you want to emulate. I think we've all learned from working that you learn a lot from working with different people. Some people you learn that you'll want to do things more like them, and then there'll be others where you'll learn a great deal from them, but maybe you learn that you want to do things a little bit differently when it comes to, say, motivating your team and so on. And so I think in general, what I would say, and the advice would apply just as well to men, is work hard, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you want to work on something, reach out, speak to someone, as opposed to feeling as though you were left out of the process or you were not given some opportunity. I think we have a lot of responsibility as you're further along in your career to try to make those conversations happen, and I think we'll probably talk about that some more a little bit later in this panel.
Gabrielle, what advice do you have?
So I think my advice for women to advocate for themselves is, number one, value yourself. Because I think a lot of times we do go in, we work hard, and we're always focusing on what we could have done better, what we could have, what more can we do, what other things, and we don't really take time to pat ourselves on the back and savor the fact that we just killed it and we did do this, we accomplished something, and, take the time to reflect on and find things that you can be proud of. You checked off, 5 things off your list, even if there are 20 still on it, you got those things done. And I think just remembering that, you are doing things that are furthering your career, you're learning, you are having these experiences, and all of those things are valuable not just to yourself, but to your colleagues, and you are contributing. I think it's important to remember that, and remember that also in terms of work-life balance, take the time to, work out, do whatever you need to, clear your head, have those things. I think the valuing yourself kind of goes across all of those different areas. And then the other thing, I think in terms of, advocating for yourself is lean into awkward, take those opportunities that feel like I really don't want to, self-promote or ask for that opportunity or do that extra thing or reach out to that person. Just do something that feels uncomfortable, and you notice very quickly that nobody else cares. It wasn't uncomfortable for anyone else. And most of the time you'll create these opportunities that, turn into, other opportunities for yourself, for other people, and it's kind of spreading the value across, a lot of different areas that you're working in.
Thank you. And Melanie, what great advice do you have for?
Well, the very first thing I had written down on my scrambling little notes was be yourself. I think, and I also I'm just going to be kind of bringing together some of the thoughts that have been shared, which I agree with all of them. You watch a lot and pick up the qualities from different things, pick and choose what you like about different people's styles, rather than try to be somebody else. Always try to be yourself. Be human, be humble, not too humble. I mean, I think women have a disposition to sometimes devalue their currency a little bit naturally, because we've been brought up, at least in my generation, to do that. Just remember, you have a right to be, you're here for a reason. You have a right to be here. Sit at the head of the table if that's where you're supposed to sit. Don't shy away from it. Take the long-term view. I mean, I think this is something that there's wonderful conversations going on right now about things that we didn't talk about when I was coming up in the late 80s and early 90s. And that's fantastic that they're happening. At the same time, there's still going to be things that happen that, not that they should, but at some, on the minor stuff, you just kind of, in my view, is a little bit let it go. Life's really short. There's good things, there's bad things in everybody's experience as men and women, and just try to get on with the business of the work that you love. And you shouldn't be doing this if you don't love this, by the way, because you do it way too much of the day. I agree with this, lean into those opportunities and those things that make you uncomfortable. The best things I've done are the things that people are going, why in the world is she doing that? I mean, I can't seem to hold a job down for very long. I move around a lot, and they're not necessarily the most obvious things to do, but to me, they inspired me in the moment, and I took the chance and I did them. All of them intimidated me enormously, or I wouldn't have probably done them. So I think you learn so much about yourself, and you become a far better lawyer. And I think what we ultimately, Layla in a different way, but we all aspire to be counsel rather than just technicians. And I think if you do those things and you take yourself out of your comfort zone, you have a much greater chance of building the confidence that allows you to do that. The last comment I guess I would make is, the only one I have that's actually uniquely to women, I think, is be alive to, it's not a uniquely women risk, but because I think, and I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, I think women can tend to be very, very organized. At least we self-select those who go to law school. And we can be very appealing for controlling that part of a file. Just be very careful not to become a permanent junior. Make sure that you push for those opportunities that may not so naturally come, because I myself can even find myself gravitating towards a young woman who's just fantastic at getting from A to B and the food to the soldiers. Just be really careful, and I'm very careful now because I recognize it, but I think it's a risk. It's because you're really good at something, but you just don't want to lose out your opportunities. I think, the last thing I would just say is government service is like the thing that has made the difference in my life as a lawyer and as a person, and just something to consider. I think you have wonderful opportunities in the United States to do that. So something that I guess that would be an advice I would give to a young woman who is looking to excel in our area.
Thank you. Great advice from everyone. Now, I wanted, if we could, to take a look at what has been your experience finding and working with mentors and sponsors within the section that has helped you to advocate for yourself. We'll start with Melissa.
Yeah, my experience is a little different in that my experience of the section is it tends to be somewhat DC and New York centric. That's a gross overgeneralization, but antitrust laws for large cases, that the company litigation, it's not completely litigated out of New York and DC, but I do know that when I was in Philadelphia, I wasn't getting the same types of cases that I get referred to me now that I'm in DC. And so when I was in leadership before, when I was in Philadelphia, I was somewhat removed from the day-to-day workings. Now, I know we can get better in that, and I think we are getting better at that. I think that since I've been in DC, I've had a number of friends who had worked in the government in DC. And one of my dearest friends is a woman named Melanie Sabo. She's since retired because she's been ill. But she was the one who said, oh, come on, Melissa, you can do this, you can do that, get involved here, get involved there. And I can name any number of people whom I've met through the section who have really taught me the ropes. Amanda Waite and Christine Summers leap to mind, giving them a shout out, because they schooled me, even though they're probably 15 years younger than me, on exactly what it is, the ABA antitrust section is looking for, what you need to do to succeed and what you need to do to move along, and the benefits of it. I know so many more people now within the section. I am thought of for referrals when there are conflicts or when somebody needs somebody to handle a witness, because I meet them in the section, I work hard in the section, and I like to think that people think that I'm reliable when they assign me something to do. Turning back to that geographical issue again, we had on the Exemptions and Immunities Committee a young lawyer, he's not so young anymore, from South Carolina. It's a man, and he got very involved because I met him on a case, and I sort of needed somebody to help me out with some stuff. And I realized that there were no members of leadership from South Carolina. And this year, he's a vice chair, and he's here, Travis Wheeler. So I think as the world becomes more electronic and smaller, it's much easier for those of us who are in Philadelphia and South Carolina to take more of a leadership role. And I encourage both young men and women, wherever you are, to get involved, put the work in, because there's no such thing as a DC-centric or New York-centric antitrust practice anymore.
Thank you. And Layla, what has your experience been finding and working with mentors or sponsors within the section?
So I think my initial involvement in terms of, I was a member for a very long time, but I was invited to speak at, speak in committee programs or at the spring meeting. I contributed to one of our handbooks, and then I've moved on to assisting and contributing to other publications. And I think for each of those opportunities to come my way, I don't think I myself know by name who that person was that thought of me or encouraged someone to reach out. They're obviously out there in the section, and I'm grateful for them. I mean, John Jacobson certainly is someone that comes to mind as I think just someone who's been a very strong ally, I think, in some ways, in terms of encouraging involvement from younger economists who are women, and I presume younger women lawyers as well. So I've had a great experience in the section, and I think now that I am much more involved in this particular capacity that I'm in now, we're very dedicated when it comes to committee programs to the diversity policy with respect to making sure that the panels that you put together, whether it's at the spring meetings or otherwise, have diversity in terms of not just gender and race, but also in terms of viewpoints. And of course, I think you do get diversity in viewpoints once you have diversity amongst that comes through gender and race, because the world is changing. And more when we look for answers to solutions, it's about making sure that different viewpoints are represented. And so I've had a great experience in the section with people reaching out. So
great, that's good to hear. Yeah. Gabrielle?
So for me, I initially became involved in the section because I was very busy at my law firm, but I was busy writing briefs and I didn't have as much people interaction, and it seemed like a good way to get exposure to a broader set of competition issues than just the narrow case that I was working on. As soon as I did that, as soon as I, showed any kind of interest, one of my mentors at my law firm at the time, Mindy Reeves, became a big advocate for me to be more involved in the section. And it was kind of a two-way street where she then advocated on my behalf to the partners at my firm. She also helped me get the position on the Antitrust Law Journal. I had a fantastic mentor through the ABA mentor program, Tara Kozloff, that just has been a great mentor, friend, experienced on everything from work-life balance to, competition issues and so forth. And then just the network of peers has also provided a lot of mentor and sponsor opportunities where there are people that I got to know through things like the spring meeting, through things like the post-annual, and now it's been 7-8 years, and we, stay in touch throughout the year, and we look out for opportunities for one another. And I think that that's been one of the most valuable things, being part of this community, that it's really spotlighted opportunities that exist that I would have never heard about otherwise, whether it's conferences or speaking opportunities, cases, even, in-house positions. And I think having that network, and finding, whether they're official mentors or just peers that support you and that, advocate or, mention you to other people, whether you know them or not, I think has been a massive boon to my career. Thank you.
Now, for Melanie, what has your experience been with mentoring and sponsorship in the section?
Well, I'm indebted to the section on many levels. In terms of mentorship, I was first brought to be involved by Howard Feller, who I am forever grateful to. He got me involved in a project with Tom Barnett before he went into the agency, who then became a huge supporter and friend. Probably, not long after, it was more in the sense of mentor/peers, I guess, as I took the position at the agency. But in that role, I'm equally indebted to the section in terms of, as head of my agency, took a lot of ideas and inspiration from the work that was either initiated by the section or was something that the section was participating in, taught me so much about what was going on in a much busier and active jurisdiction than my own. I was given great opportunities in terms of meeting peers in the U.S. and getting to understand some of the controversies here, such that I could then sort of translate them, take them back home, do a Canadianized version of them if I could do it. I mean, we brought in a second request system in Canada while I was commissioner, which was completely and utterly modeled on the system here, and I wouldn't have understood it probably as well had it not been for the friends that I could just kind of corner at a post-annual and grill for just like, how does that part work? Or how do you deal with the fact you have so many custodians? Or, how it was at the time that Debbie Majoris was still at the FTC, who, I shouldn't call her a mentor because that makes her sound old, and she's not much older than I am, but she is a huge mentor to me. And she gave me some good ideas in terms of bringing in guidelines when I brought them in. So just professionally hugely indebted, but also the friendships that I've made in the section among the women and everybody. We have a network of women, we really do, and it is spectacular. Some of my closest friends have we've forged our relationships at post-annuals and midwinters, having moved to DC and not having had an automatic community. So it's really been my home as I've made my many transitions between government and private practice, between Canada and the United States, and I'm very proud to be a part of the section.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that you all shared your current efforts, and I know they'll come to fruition. I certainly appreciate and thank the stellar panel for participating today. And you can look for this podcast to be posted on the section's website as well as on our YouTube channel. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a great day.